Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Poets and Quants and Center Court's Executive MBA Admissions Festival. Today, we're joined by an alum and admissions director from the MBA program at University of Florida's Warrington College of Business. I'm your host, Christy Blyzeffer of Poets and Quants. Please feel free to use the Q&A function to submit any questions you have, and I'll do my best to get to those at the end of the session. Let's begin by getting to know our panelists. Please introduce yourself. And Andrew, we'll start with you.
Hi, my name is Andrew Myers. I recently completed the EMBA this past April, so I'm the class of 25. My background, I was an officer in the United States Navy for 20 years, and after I retired, I'm working in energy. So right now, I'm a project manager for a company called 2JCP. And so one of the reasons why I kind of want to get out there that I picked the EMBA course is I learned after getting out of the military, I didn't really speak the language of business, and
Right.
started really looking at what was available. And I live here in Jacksonville, Florida, and I thought the University of Florida program was going to be perfect for me, and turned out it was. So.
Oh, great background. Thank you. And Naz, how about you?
Hi, yeah, and thank you, Christy, and the rest of the Poets and Quants team for having us. As you all may know, I'm Naz Arangooch. I'm the Director of Admissions for the MBA program, and that incorporates our executive online full-time and weekend part-time programs here at the Warrington College of Business. And I've had the wonderful opportunity for about 15 years of being with this team and being in the landscape of the MBA realm. And so I'm super excited to be here today to talk more about our EMBA program.
Well, certainly, and thank you both for taking the time today. It's certainly valuable for people when they're choosing their program. So Naz, let's just stick with you. Tell us a little bit about, Warrington's mission, values, what sets you apart. Why should people look at a Warrington MBA?
Yeah. So, Christy, I think that at the end of the day, whatever MBA program a prospective student is considering, it's all about managing the value proposition that student's looking to get out. And so at the core of it is understanding the strengths of the program and understanding what that program's goals are for, ultimately delivering the program that it has to offer. So a little bit of a historical context. We started our MBA program back in 1948 by launching our full-time MBA program. And for quite some time, about 50 years, we kind of operated in that full-time space. And then in the early 90s, we saw that executive MBA programs were becoming more and more imperative because people who have been in the professions for many, many years, they needed a little bit more of an understanding of how to run a business and understand and fine-tune those leadership skill sets. And so in 1993, we launched an executive MBA program designed for specifically busy working professionals that are working 40, 50, 60, you name it, hours a week. And so the program being designed for that busy working professional also we created a curriculum that we also thought aligned really well with kind of the student of today of juggling multiple facets. And so we are a weekend based program. And so every third weekend, our students come to Gainesville, Florida for their live lectures. And we can get into the logistics of that a little bit later on. But why that's so important to say now is that when you think about the value of our program and the strengths of our program, we really lean into those who are in the Southeast region, specifically in about a 5-hour driving radius of Gainesville. We do have students that are coming from even further, geographic areas, further distances, but mainly those who want to kind of really invest in themselves, who have a high energy for networking and really being able to understand the value of not just kind of fine-tuning their academic or professional experience in one alley, but rather getting that broad perspective. And so we offer a general executive MBA that focuses in management and leadership. And it's something that I know Andrew will talk about as it comes to kind of the classmates that he had and the diverse backgrounds that they come with, but really bringing in those who have considerable amount of professional experience, who are coming from not just here in Gainesville, Florida, but all over the state and beyond, and those who have that drive and energy to really give back to the Gator Nation is really our mission and goal.
Absolutely. Well, Andrew, how about that? I know you said that you were coming from the military and you wanted to learn to speak the business language, but can you tell us a little bit more about, kind of the thought process of choosing an executive MBA, maybe then over another type of MBA program, and what it was specifically about Warrington's program that made you choose them?
Absolutely. Thank you, Christy. And so, yeah, so when I realized, like, as a project manager working in energy, like not being able to speak the language of business, that was what really kind of motivated me. And I was like, what am I missing? And that's when I really started to look at the MBA. And, like my undergrad was at Annapolis at the US Naval Academy. And I talked to my roommate, and he was just like, go get your MBA. Like, you'll really start to figure out what you're missing, because my joke, some people can appreciate this. Coming out of the military, you have a lot of soft skills. If you want to go into the defense military complex, that's easy. That translates very well. But for the most part, the challenge that you have is, like I said, I was a free agent. I just didn't know what sport I wanted to play. And then, so once you pick a sport, it's easy to pick teams and kind of evolve from there. And I kind of went into energy, but then going through, dealing with pro formas and all these other things that you really don't typically deal with in the military, I realized I had a steep learning curve. And then, so when I started looking, I was really impressed with Warrington. One, like, just like what Naz was talking about, the value that it provides, and then the strengths of the actual curriculum is phenomenal, especially at the EMBA, but even their weekend professionals, it's still like the teachers are absolutely first rate, even though like it's sleepy Gainesville, Florida. Sorry, Naz, but like it is like it's not what you would typically associate. And then when all of a sudden you start to really learn your professors, they are absolutely first rate, phenomenal, top notch in almost every single regard. But like they're attracted to working there because the students that they're working with are also first rate as well. If you live in the state of Florida, you know how competitive it is to get in the University of Florida. And so like that's their intent. And then my classmates, once I was accepted, all of them, it was 95% came within the state of Florida. So then you also expand your network that people that I would never have known. So like I'm good friends with two people that work for Darden. And so now I can tell you about all their marketing strategy, their IT strategy, things that I probably would never anticipated 5 years ago. And that's where I'm at now. But yeah, it was interesting sitting with my classmates that first weekend at lunch, and we're like, why'd you pick this? And they were like, the value, the flexibility, everything about it. There was just so many strengths. There weren't that many weaknesses other than, yes, what's great about Gainesville is you all kind of converge from wherever you are in the state to there. And it didn't matter what your background was, whether it was engineering, doctors, marketers, they all could come together and really start to learn the information that they really wanted to learn. So it was great.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Well, Naz, let's get into a little bit more about kind of the nuts and bolts of the program. Tell us about, kind of the typical class size, the format, schedule, those kinds of things.
Yeah. So on average, we're bringing about 40, 45 students every cohort. I think Drew's cohort, you had about 42, 43 as well. And so at very minimum, everybody that is earning a spot in this program has to have at minimum 8 years of professional experience. That's really what we're leaning into, is having that minimum professional experience with either management or leadership or C-suite in your title, or we want to see some kind of trajectory trajectory that demonstrates that you work well with others and that you have been able to be project lead or, organizational leader. And so, I'll tell you that even though we only require 8 years of experience on average, it's not dissimilar to Drew's cohort, the average is about 16 years. So we're bringing well-seasoned professionals. And I make this joke all the time. It's not often that people decide on a whim that they want to give up, this much time, energy, and sweat equity towards, an MBA. And so those who find themselves intrigued by the idea of investing in themselves, I think is a very unique population. But really what we're looking for is high energy individuals that are really looking to increase their business acumen. And so you'll see that by the multitude of types of organizations and academic backgrounds. To Drew's point, there was a number of physicians and engineers and marketing individuals, accountants, the full gambit of professional and academic experiences represented within this EMBA program. And so you get a great mix of individuals that have a lot of lived experiences, a lot of professional experience, and that are eager and excited to join this network of peers to really call upon. And so the structure of the program itself is that every third weekend, students are making that trip to Gainesville, Florida, where they're in class all day Saturday, all day Sunday. So we start at 8:30 on Saturday to make sure you're done before 6:30. And then Sunday, we kick off a little bit earlier at 7:30 to make sure that you're done before 5. And that's primarily important for those that are driving back to Jacksonville, Orlando, South Florida, maybe even out of state, or wanting to fly back home, that we have an end time that is feasible for those individuals to hit the road. So, and of course, Drew can attest to this. We give you guys ample time for coffee breaks or bio breaks, and of course, lunch break, because we want to make sure that everybody is able to sit there and really absorb all that content for those dedicated class weekends. And I'll also, the last thing that I'll point out is that those lecture content they are only delivered during those class weekends. So there might be a lot of programs out there that you're considering that might be a hybrid online or other, evening-based format where you have to all log in on a Tuesday night or whatnot. Our program is not like that. It's strictly structured so that lecture content is only delivered during those dedicated class weekends. It is 21 months from start to finish. We let students know the calendar more than 2 years out. So those who are looking to start in 2026, they know exactly what weekends from start to finish they would be in Gainesville.
Yeah. Are there concentrations or electives with this EMBA, or do they kind of go through as a cohort?
Yeah, so I would say the strength of our program is that it is cohort based. So you start with your same group of students and you all take the same courses from start to finish. And I think why that's really important is that as an executive MBA candidate, you have already so much professional experience that becoming a subject matter expert is more about what you've acquired professionally and not what you acquire academically. Now, the academic piece is how do you tie it all together, right? And so how do you tie in the concepts of just-in-time delivery and operations supply chain management to any which industry? And so our focal point is about that general MBA that focuses in management and leadership, although Drew could attest to the fact that almost every term out of the 7 terms, 5 terms, he did take a finance related course. So that was very finance focused. But I think the scope of the program is how do we build better decision makers within whichever realm they're looking to either get into or stay in. Since I'll also tell you that about a third of our students, if not more, are looking to stay within their organizations. And so it's really imperative that we're looking at that global business skill set as opposed to many other programs that offer those concentrations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Andrew, what would you say about that, the academic experience, particularly the moving forward with the same cohort and, any kind of standout moments that you really remember?
Absolutely. And that's the thing, like Nas said perfectly, like it's 21 months and it doesn't stop. And so like once you hit go, you're going. And So the academics, like you typically have 2 classes per term. The first term you have 3 because you need to learn how to write, and that's, I think, was the biggest transition. I think it was one of the harder classes for a lot of the people because we're all used to writing in a certain way, and then we have a teacher that's just like, no, like this is really how you need to structure it, and because very rarely do you have a professional in your work that be like, hey, you really need to figure out, I need it to be concise. Like that's typically the feedback. I just need it to be concise, but whatever. Or now people are just using, AI to kind of write their emails. But like you have to kind of understand, like, what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to say? And then in terms of like the actual academic experience, it is, every 3 weeks you're there. And so like your whole cohort, because you're learning together, you really do become a family. And so like not every Saturday night, but a lot of Saturday nights it was kind of go out as a cohort. And then the school itself makes sure that like once a term there was always something going on, so that it's not just your cohort, but it's also the other cohort that's also in the curriculum as well, either a year ahead of you or a year behind. So you kind of expand your network because you'll be in that one classroom the entire 21 months. You know exactly where you're going to go. But what's great about it is the diversity of experience that comes to the table, and then we all kind of learn together. But just like what Naz was talking about, you had accountants, you had CPAs that are literally taking an accounting class, and then like the conversation that they're having with a teacher is much different than, let's say, a doctor who's never like, they're like, man, I don't understand how the balance sheet really works or anything like that. But that's what it was kind of, it was level setting in a lot of ways. And you really get to do a lot of case studies and do deep dives into companies and really start to figure out, all right, what are the strengths and weaknesses of, we could use Disney because you're probably going to have several employees from Walt Disney that are going to be in your cohort, and they can provide, hey, like, I don't deal anything with parks, I deal with streaming, but like this is what always kind of fascinates me, and they can kind of like help you be like, hey, this is what we think of it internally. So it was a great experience, and you learn about so many different companies, not just in the state of Florida, but also internationally as well.
Yeah, interesting. Naz, what would you say maybe beyond the cohort feel is kind of a defining characteristic of the Warrington EMBA?
Yeah, so I think that it's really, it goes beyond the classroom. Drew really touched up on the fact that there is a strong family dynamic, and that goes beyond kind of being in the classroom of Huff Hall. So much of what we do really fosters this sense of being a Gator. And what I mean by that is, whether it's a networking event, whether it's at the midway point, this program has our students go on a global immersion experience. So they do a 1-week study tour. But beyond that, we do a lot of other things, such as professional development, whether it be with our Excel training or Lean Six Sigma or Scrum Master training. We also have an MBA Summit series and a small conference series that we kind of move between different regional areas where we have a high population of current students and alums, where we get our students back together to continue to have the conversations of how to do skill development above and beyond what they're doing in the classroom. So some of the things that we'll even do is bring students back for an ethical leadership seminar. And so everything that we have to offer, even from, a career coaching perspective, a career strategy perspective, I mean, all of these opportunities are things that any of our students have access to. So as an EMBA, you get to choose from a buffet of opportunities. If you want to just stick to the prescribed EMBA curriculum, Great. You're going to have tons of internal networking opportunities. You're going to, get to meet your classmates really well. You're going to go on an international trip together, and you can do that, and that's going to be a phenomenal experience. But if you want to take that experience and even more so kind of lean into it, then there are so many additional opportunities to do so. And let me just kind of also add here that, we pride ourselves on having a graduation and a retention rate of over 93% within our executive MBA program, which is huge. And why I say that that's so huge is that when you have so many competing things, it's really hard to kind of make that time and energy to do this program. When you have so many competing, things calling at you, it's really hard to say, let me carve that 15 to 20 hours out a week. And I think that graduation and retention rate is truly a testament to our differentiation when it comes to how we build a cohort from the admission side to how we cultivate the strong cohort culture within the program, as well as all the support that we have to offer from the faculty, academic support, and all of the professional and career support that we have to offer as well. So it is that collective whole that I think really leads to a strong graduation and retention rate.
Absolutely. Well, Andrew, from your perspective, about the Gator culture outside of the classroom, what was kind of the most valuable to you? What did you take part in, and what was really important to you?
Well, day one, you become part of Gator Nation, and that the administration is great about that, letting you know like you are now a Gator. By you walking into this classroom, you're now a Gator, and then by the way that it starts, usually in August, you go right into football season, and like there's going to at least be 1 to 2 home games each year when you're going to be there, and so you really get to see like the campus come alive, and it's just like it sets the tone right there on that Saturday morning. Some people get there, Friday night, they'll drive up, and they'll use the academic or use that time to get caught up on their academics, and then some are commuting right in there on Saturday morning, and then everybody's already there. Regardless, the game could start at 8 o'clock that night, and there are already campers out, people are out, like they are getting ready to be part of that, the Gator Nation. This past year, winning the national championship in basketball, like my text kept. I was actually in Europe when the game happened, but my phone would not stop blowing up because the entire cohort was just so excited to see the outcome of that game. And, considering coming back to win the game was unbelievable. But you are working you're seeing the graduate students in Q Hall, you're seeing them on campus the whole time. Like you really do feel like you are part of Gator Nation the whole time that you're there. And then the fact that the resources are available for an EMBA just as much as they are for an undergrad or a grad student, like you can really leverage those resources to really make most of your time there as a student.
Yeah. Speaking of resources, Naz, I think maybe one of the big decision points for people is the balance of their full-time job, their families, and school. What kind of support does Warrington offer in that regard?
Yeah. So, I think that one thing we can all agree on is it's really hard to predict 21 months, right? We jokingly say that a number of babies can be born during that period of time, that people get relocated, people have, get promotions, things happen. And I know that Drew's cohort faced a lot of that, the great news and maybe the more challenging news that comes with life. And so when life kind of throws our students curveballs, that's what we are here to help support. And so, I know that a number of students over the years, I'll speak to one who was deployed during his time in our EMBA. Basically, what we did is just gave him a leave of absence until he was able to return. Some people need to transition from an EMBA weekend-based program because they're relocating out of state and it's maybe not as feasible, or maybe they're welcoming, or caring for a young child and those needs change. And so we have inherent flexibility within our program to transition to either giving somebody time off or transitioning them to one of our other formats. And so an example of this would be we've had students that have to transition to our online MBA program. And we have created a large portfolio of MBA programs, all that are taught by the same faculty, all that earn the same degree. There's nothing on transcripts or diplomas that specify which of our MBA formats a student has pursued. And that's intentionally done so that if you do need to make that shift, you can feel confident going from an EMBA program that meets every third weekend to an online program, knowing that you're still earning that same fantastic Warrington degree. And in fact, how we created our portfolio is also to align with those needs of our students. So our executive MBA program, our weekend part-time programs, and our full-time programs, they only start once a year. So we recognize that, if somebody starts a program, they might not need to, and they need to take a break. They might not want to wait a whole year to kind of re-enroll. And so our online program, on the other hand, starts 3 times a year. So if you did need to make a transition, or maybe just need a transition for a semester or 2 while you got, kind of everything sorted out, we have that flexibility. Now, I think that I say that all with a grain of salt because it's really important. And I think so much of the success of our program is predicated on having that cohort mentality and still having that really strong rooted family ties that you'll have with the cohort that you start with. But once again, we know at the end of the day, the best MBA is a completed MBA, not a half-started, partially completed MBA. And so we'll do whatever it takes. As long as a student graduates within 7 years of starting, we will make that happen for them.
Oh, wow. Very good. Well, Andrew, what's like maybe one piece of advice for that balance?
Well, I kind of want to piggyback off what Naz said. So at our graduation, we had several members of our cohort that transitioned to a different program, but we're all part of the same graduation. So it was really great to see them then at graduation because of, one of them had to move. The other one, because of just couldn't continue to commute to Gainesville every 3 weekends, so he transitioned to the online program. But we all walked together. I mean, the biggest thing is that time commitment. I can tell you, most of our classmates, they probably started at 8 o'clock at night and they went till whenever they could at night. And, whether it was midnight or whatever, but it's staying on top of it more than anything else. And I would say 10 to 20 hours is probably about right per week. And it really does depend. Sometimes it's going to be closer to 20, sometimes it's just 10, just keeping up with the workload, because if you try to wait to the last minute, it's just the amount of information will be too much to really retain it. And so it's just that time management, and everyone realized life does catch up. You want to take vacations, you want to do all that stuff. We had multiple marriages in our cohort during the program. We had babies, we had twins that were delivered, and lots of promotions within the cohort. So life was definitely impacting us on a weekly, daily basis, but it was just how to manage your time as well as you could while competing with all those other facets of life, from your job to your family to whatever. So yeah. It was something that, you have to be motivated. And that's what I thought was also interesting, is the support network that the cohort provided to each other, so that, hey, you could always text them, somebody within the cohort, I'm really having a hard time with this material. I don't understand it. I feel overwhelmed. And they were kind of all right, take a deep breath. Let's walk through this and we'll get through it together. So,
yeah. Andrew, can you maybe summarize for us, kind of quickly, what kind of professional impact you noticed from the EMBA?
I thought, once again, the professors are absolutely phenomenal, and I can't understate that enough. And the amount that I learned. So now, I'm opening up a business that I never thought I would have opened up, and I'm in the process right now of getting everything started. I mean, there's a lot of risk associated with it, but that's the thing, is taking all those skills that I've learned from the EMBA, over the course of 21 months, and now I can actually apply it for myself. And so that's what I think is absolutely fascinating too. the teachers, Anir, Sella, Brian, like human resources, I thought was probably the biggest one that opened up a lot of people's eyes. Everyone knows HR is a big issue, but then it's just like really understanding why things are the way that they are, and then also the psychology behind it to how to improve it if when you go to work on that Monday. And that's the other thing too. Probably one of the biggest takeaways is things that you learned on Saturday and Sunday, and then going to work on Monday and being like, I just dealt with this. Like I literally learned this, and so now I got to teach it the exact same way that I got it in the classroom, literally the day before. So
Right.
it was absolutely a phenomenal experience. I could not recommend it enough.
Yeah, well, congrats on your venture, and surely the confidence to kind of embark on entrepreneurship is certainly probably something you got from the program as well. So Naz, like, just tell us, people who want to learn more, what's the best way to get connected and to learn more about the program?
Yeah, so I am always happy to talk to anybody interested in our EMBA program. I have the wonderful opportunity to work most closely with our EMBA students, and I get to travel abroad with our EMBAs. So I travel to Madrid with Drew. And so, yeah, reach out to me directly or reach out to my team. We do coffee chats. We have open houses. If you want to come to campus, if you want to come visit an EMBA class weekend, just reach out, naz@warrington.ufl.edu, and I'd be happy to assist.
Right. Well, thank you both for taking the time and providing those valuable insights for everybody who is right now in that program search. You be sure to watch the remaining panel sessions throughout the day, where you'll hear from other top business schools and student perspective. And as always, be sure to go to poetsandquants.com for other informative articles, videos, and more to help you decide which programs are the best fit for you, no matter where you are in the journey. And until next time, see you later.